So this is the final chapter reading of the 28 pages. And this last video is going to be entitled Status of the U.S. Intelligence Community's Investigation into Connections Between Terrorism and Saudi Government Officials. It's not going to be a very long video either. So let's get right to it. Both the CIA and the FBI have informed the Commission that they are treating the Saudi asset seriously. According to the November 18, 2002 FBI report response, the FBI and CIA have established a working group to look into the Saudi issue. The FBI formed a squad at the Washington field office. And as you can see, this is all redacted. And this is basically to protect the identity of the FBI's special agent in charge, and also those who worked on the report, because evidently the joint inquiry could not access, just like the 9/11 Commission, could not access the materials that show these people's names and what they were working on specifically, because it was classified. It was classified on the orders of the State Department, probably by Attorney General John Ashcroft, under orders from, of course, President Bush. There's a lot redacted there. However, both the FBI and the CIA still have only a limited understanding of the Saudi government's ties to terrorist elements. In the October 9, 2002 closed hearing, Director Mueller asked, "If I have one preliminary note of caution, it is that at this point, there are more questions than answers. And I would caution against jumping to conclusions before we know a lot more." Well, of course, Mueller is saving his own ass because the FBI had a lot. And how do we know that? Through the Operation Encore and Counterterrorism document. End of story. Operation Encore being the follow-up to Penpalm, the Counterterrorism document in which Donald Canestraro from the Drug Enforcement Agency headed to task the Office of Military Commissions in Guantanamo, saw classified material pointing to Saudi Arabia. Remember, just take this into effect too. Where's Israel? Where's Israel? Right? Okay. There is probably classified material in Israel. Probably. Now, here's another scenario. They probably had not known about the Israelis inside the United States. Yes. Could they have known about the art student ring? Some FBI agents, yes. Some field officers probably had the report because, remember, they were spying on the FBI. Were they spying on the FBI for what? For the drug operation? Maybe. Or to see what they knew about the Saudis? To see what they knew about the Israelis? You don't know. Don't jump, like Mueller says, don't jump to conclusions, although we're jumping on Mueller here because we know now, but we don't know yet. All right? Now, we do know the Israelis were here, monitoring the FBI, DEA, Southwest Laboratories, and living next door to all the hijackers. What information did he collect? I don't know. I don't know. So I don't want to assume. The attacks? Maybe. Be careful. It's all I'm asking for you to do. Use your head. Don't jump to conclusions. Even though Israel government's led by a bunch of psychopaths, you can't just say, all right, they knew about 9/11 and let it happen. Can you go to court with that? No. So that means don't jump to conclusions. Don't be like the others that ruined the truth movement. Document located by the Joint Inquiry staff confirms that the FBI's Washington field office is still in the early stages of focusing on these investigations. In an August 15, 2002 communication, the field office agent stated that blank. Redacted. Blank acknowledged in his testimony that the understanding of this issue is limited as well. With regard to the specific question of have we seen the Saudi intelligence service supporting terror groups? I think the record is not clear at all. In fact, it was clear because through the Operation Encore files, we do know that they labeled Muassad al-Jara, Omar al-Bayoumi, Fahad al-Tamari, and Osama Basnan as Saudi agents working for the Saudi government. And they knew it in 2002. End of story. There's no more debate anymore. But because the State Department protects their interests, it says redacted. This is why I tell you not to vote. This is a great example. It's the reason why I'm reading these chapters, doing a chapter reading, doing document readings, because most of you have not seen this. And it's not your fault. You know, some of you probably didn't know about these things. Most of you probably came from a conspiracy background like me, but then started using your cognitive dissonance and honest report, honest investigator. I said, to hell with these fringe material conspiracies. Did the FBI and CIA recognize the possibility that individuals connected to the Saudi government may be providing support by terrorists? Blank testified. So there is certainly a good chance that there are sympathizers or extremist sympathizers, possibly for al-Qaeda, within the security services. There are in the Saudi government. Blank also noted that Abu Zubaydah said he's confident that al-Qaeda must have contacts, certainly with Saudis in the United States, and that al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden are they invest significant energy in cultivating what Abu Zubaydah called good relationships with Saudis of all standing. Remember, Saudi Arabia is made up of Wahhabism. You have the government, and then you have Wahhabism, led by the clerics, led by the government, the kingdom. They're intertwined. When the State Department says you got to reform, in other words, pipe down on the terrorism, they do, just to keep that relation with the United States that they need. But now that they can regulate the oil, they could go to China, they could go to Great Britain, they could go to Russia. He said bin Laden is very pleased with the Saudis and the military. These successful in business and those to the close royal family to lead active support on his cause. He said bin Laden actively seeks out such relationships. Other CIA and FBI officials echoed these remarks in recent congressional testimony. Blank stated, what we find troubling about the cases that we learned about from FBI, both the Los Angeles cases and some of the cases that the Washington field office looked at, in which you're seeing Saudi money going to people, is that it fits sort of a pattern that we're seeing in terms of direct payments from the Saudis. Saudi government's long-standing support for very fundamentalist Wahhabi and Salafi charities and movements around the world, which in a sense you see the money in going to fundamentalism, and you would be very surprised if some of it doesn't bleed over to terrorist support. We've had a lot of suspicions before September 11th, which we documented in a number of different papers. And again, there's a lot of smoke. And the issue that comes up are who knows about the payments, on whose behalf are the payments being made? Are they being made on behalf of the central government, or are they being made by a local official or a person? Do the people who are making the payments know what's happening to the money? If they do know what's happening, why are they making the payments? Is it a form of blackmail? Do they recognize the terrorist support? That there's an issue of, are they regulating themselves as well as are they doing the due diligence that they ought to? It could be a mixture of all those things. We do know, according to Robert Baer, former CIA counterterrorism official, once said that the Saudis were paying the kingdom, were paying al-Qaeda and groups like Abu Sayyaf, Jemaah Islamiyah, not to attack them. So a form of blackmail. Then you had sympathizers within the royal family that sympathized with bin Laden because, bin Laden Construction Group is a huge company. But bin Laden himself had an army of jihadists. And he could probably send one back to Saudi Arabia and blow up maybe a government, a building or whatnot. Remember the attack on the Grand Mosque? FBI Executive Assistant Director Pasquale De Amuro testified at the same hearing. To date, I can't sit here and tell you that those ties go back, that we have proof that the Saudi royal family is sponsoring terrorism. There's enough smoke that we are conducting several investigations to try to determine what other information is out there. What is clear is that the FBI did not treat the Saudis as a counterterrorism blank threat prior to September 11th, 2001. Michael Rolnice, the former head of the International Terrorism Operations Sector at the FBI, testified, the answer to your question in pre-9/11 day, there will be not any significant preliminary inquiry or full investigation, with relatively few exceptions conducted by the FBI looking at Saudi blank or support to terrorism. I'm not going to stand here, Ms. Hill, Eleanor Hill, the Executive Director of Joint Inquiry, and tell you that in any way, shape, or form blank. Former Assistant Special Agent in charge in San Diego confirmed in his testimony. Basically, redacted. We're not a country identified by the State Department as a state sponsor of terrorism, and that the theme or the common modus operandi that we saw in San Diego was that it were blank. There were primary objectives was to monitor dissidents of interest of protecting the royal family. So they were not viewed as an identical threat to national security. In the October 9th, 2002 closed hearing, Director Mueller acknowledged that he became aware of some of the facts regarding to the Saudi issue only as a result of the investigative work of the Joint Inquiry staff. They can't ignore the Joint Inquiry staff, right? I'm saying the sequence of events here, I think the staff probed, and as a result of the probing, some facts came to light here, and to me, frankly, that had come to light before, and perhaps would not have come to light had the staff not probed. That's what I'm telling you. So I'm agreeing with you that the staff probing brought out facts that may not have come to this committee, that have come to this committee, Senator Devine. But what you're also saying, though, is that probing, when brought facts to your attention, Mueller, yes. And of course, they couldn't hide the fact that the Joint Inquiry looked elsewhere for information which showed that the FBI probably knew about Saudi dissidents inside the United States, or that there were sympathizers within the Saudi kingdom that could pose a risk to national security in the United States. So under orders of the Bush administration, straight on down to the straight on down to the Attorney General, straight on down to the Department of Justice, this was a cover-up. A cover-up for the Saudi kingdom. And we have to demand that Robert Mueller tell public about whether it was Bush, Cheney, but it had to come from Bush, the president. Maybe it came from Cheney on behalf of the president. We don't know. All right, guys, that's the end of the 28 pages chapter reading. Listen, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.